Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cynthia Linox Show. I am your host, Cynthia Linox. Today, we're going to unpack another episode of the journey of self discovery. This topic, this whole journey fascinates me. You know that I'm also going through it with you, and I'm learning so many things about myself. When you think about the options we have, I went on for many years into my adulthood living an identity that was imposed upon me, which we all have. That happens by default. You're born, and then you have the influence of your parents, your teachers, leaders, church influence, religious leaders, all of that. The things that you're taught in your growing years, uh, that's who you become. And unless once you become an adult, start asking questions, and sometimes it happens earlier, like a lot of teenagers, when they reach that age, they want to really come into themselves, and we call it the rebellious stages of life. But it's really not rebelling, it's them really wanting to self-express. They want to come out as to who they are. And sometimes, as a matter of fact, I have a friend. She has a one of her family members, her granddaughter, I believe. Here she is becoming like 18 years old, and she came to visit her, and they went shopping, and she's kind of like a what do you call that, a free spirited type young lady. She likes the long earrings, and she likes the ring in the nose and things like that, something that is totally different from what the culture of their family is. So her parents, the parents of the her granddaughter, they don't really understand that. They kind of reject that type of personality. In the meantime, this, I believe at the time she was like 16, 17 years old. 16, because she had her anyway, sweet 16 and so forth. And that's when she was really coming out into who she is. And there was like a button of heads, because she wanted to be who she wanted to self-express. In the meantime, her parents is trying to frame her a certain way. They're trying to shape her into certain behaviors and attitudes and so forth, and they just clash. So it's important that we discover our true authentic self. It doesn't matter what stage in life, because what happens is that, and a lot of people even today, they have issues making decisions. They don't know who they are. They fall into depression, anxiety, fear, doubt, worry, and all of that. Why? Because they don't know who they are. And then as they go into into society and so forth, sometimes they even have issues like jealousy and envy and competition with their peers at work and things of that nature. And none of that is necessary, because when you know who you are, there's no need to compete. Why? Because there's only one like you. You are an individual, and you are unique. You are unique in who you are. So you don't need to compete with anyone. You don't need to be jealous of anyone. You don't need to be envious of anyone, because anything that you want to accomplish, you can do that. So I don't know how your journey is going, but for me, I am discovering so many things about myself. And the thing is, I have set myself up. I'm sharing this with you because you know that I am also going through this journey of self discovery. Of course, I started a long time ago. And what it is really is removing things that no longer serves you, and at the same time discovering your true authentic self. I find myself eliminating so many things. My thing is, or one of the my pet peeves, I guess, is traditional norms, conventional construct, societal, impositions, and all of those things, things that we learn that doesn't apply today, and we live our lives based on what would people think, what would people say, and then we are kept in a box. We are given so many labels and so forth. So we really don't get to a place where we are living or flourishing in life, and then we settle for just existing. So we're going to talk about a little bit about the difference between living a flourishing life and existing. And my friend, you've got to make the change. You've got to make that change. You've got to pivot. And it's easy to settle. It's easy to just settle for uh to live on autopilot. Settle for the norm. Just settle for, to live your life by default. Just exist. And the sad thing about it is that if you're not mindful of this detail of your life, then you will live out all of your life and really not enjoying the fullness, the juice of life. There's just so much juice for us to absorb out of life. I have this friend, and she is a good looking lady, and I'm always telling her, you have got so much juice in you that you've got to really take advantage of that. She's healthy, she's beautiful, very social, travels a lot, worldly in terms of, she's relevant, she knows what's going on out there, and of course, so she's on that journey of self-discovery. She's independent, which is great because that just sets you up a different kind of way when you're independent. When you meet someone, uh, you can navigate with that person, whether it's a male or female, and enjoy life without the constraints of, oh, I can't afford this, I can't do this, I can't do that. If they say, let's go to Paris, you can get on the plane and go to Paris, or you can go get on the plane and go to New York City. Whatever floats your boat. You can go to the park. You're independent. You're free to do whatever you want to do. But okay, so let's talk about a life of being fruitful and a life of flourishing. And what I have found is that it starts with standards. You've got to have some standards. And most people don't even pay attention to that. You've got to have some standards. And in order to set up standards, you have to know your worth. And when you have standards, because people look at you, and again, I know that we're not concerned about what people think or say, but standards allows you to make choices. Why? Because you know what guidelines you have, what guidelines you have set up for yourself. Like when somebody say, what is your standard of living? That's people kind of rating you to see where you fit into their, echelon in terms of the respect they give you. What is your standard of living? But when you set up standards for yourself, whether it's for uh, your finances, your health, your social circle, your mental acuity, whatever it is, you have got to have standards. If it has to do with your health, you determine what you need to do to set up a standard of living so that you can maintain the health that you desire. See, for me, I have been paying attention to my standard of living in terms of my health, and I have set up certain standard that I want to live out, that I want to live by. One of the standards that I set up for myself, and I'm just sharing this with you, is that I want to be healthy, and I want to have the energy and the stamina, the resilience. I want to have all of that so that I can navigate through life healthy. And that comes with setting up a standard of a dietary standard. What am I going to do to nourish my body so that I want to be able to live without any kind of medication at all. None. That's a standard that I have set up for myself in that regard. And you need to do the same in every area of your life. In every area of your life, there has to be purpose. There has to be a meaning when you wake up, my friend. When you wake up, there has to be the why. Why are you awake today? What are you going to do? What is your purpose in uh what is your purpose today? What's your purpose? What is your are your actions going to align with your purpose? Or are you just going to go through the routine of, you get up, you turn on the coffee, you have breakfast, you go to work, you spend 8 hours there, sometimes even more. You drive home, you cook, or you stop and you grab something, depending on what your lifestyle is. And you watch a little TV or get on social media, and then you go to bed and you wake up the next day. That is a routine. Why? Because there's no purpose. When there is purpose, when we have a reason to, that's what makes it fruitful. That's how we flourish. Why? Because we have a plan. What are we going to accomplish today? And it doesn't have to be big things. It just has to be things that inspires you, things that motivate you, things that you like, things that causes transformation in your own life, things that causes transformation. So that is important. You must have purpose, my friend. Another thing also, growth minded. You must be growth minded, because one of the things that I have gotten into this thing about during the winter, I became a little complacent in terms of my workout regime. And I was fine with that, but then I realized, after I took some time to zen out, I allowed myself a season to just zen out. I went into a place of zen. You gain clarity, and you then emerge with some new ideas for yourself, because the whole thing of this, my friend, we are constantly, when you have purpose, you are constantly recreating yourself, reinventing yourself to make it better, to make you better, to make you more beautifuler, if that's a word, to make you better in every way. So you set yourself up for growth. So anyway, I set myself up and I said, okay, I have a membership to 24-hour uh, uh, gym, and but I don't. That's too confining for me. I like to be out in the elements. I like to, I like to see the trees and the lakes and the skies, and I just like to be outdoors. So I said I'm going to start with walking, and I did that. I've started with doing some more, and this, I guess, I started about, I don't know, 2 3 months ago. And when I started, it was kind of difficult, which is, walking is something that I enjoy doing, and yeah, I started with like a 2 mile walk, and that was great. And I've always walked, I've always walked great distances and so forth, but I hadn't in a long time. So I had to really get back into the swing of things. And so I made myself, because I made that commitment to myself, because I purpose that is one of the things that I'm going to do, because you want to, I'm thinking in terms of detox and things of that, to your body is continually detoxing itself, and I wanted to set myself up to where I would allow my body to move. And when you move, like, when I go walking, I sweat, and sweating is one of the best ways to detox. You detox through your lungs, your kidney, your liver, your lymph system, all of that. And, your skin. So that became my motivation, inspiration. That became my purpose as far as my health is concerned. And so I started with like 2 mile walk and so forth. And then I decided, I thought, you know what, I can do more than that. And then I increased it to like 3 miles, then 4 miles, then 5 miles. And after 5 miles, I don't know what it is about the human element, the human beings, for me, I know I compete against myself. And I said the other day, well, I think I was aiming for 5 miles, and I went a distance and turned out to be 5.8 miles. And I'm thinking, wow, if I did 5.8 miles, then certainly I can do 6 miles. And so I set out to do 6 miles the next day. I think it was 6 let's see here. I record all of this because it's like self motivating, and that works good for me. As a matter of fact, 6.8 miles is what I did yesterday. 6.8 miles. So what do you think I'm going to do now? I'm going to try to go for 7 miles. But it got pretty hot. As a matter of fact, on my way back, I was probably I was an eighth of a mile away from home, well, close to home, and I was getting exhausted. And then my husband, who is my coach, he called and he said, "Where are you?" He said, "It's pretty hot. It's pretty hot. You can't get heat, dehydrated, and heat exhaustion." So he was out running some errands, and he picked me up, and that was great. He's got this tracker, where he can track me, and he picked me up, and I was so glad for that ride because by then I was a bit exhausted. Why? Because it was really, really hot. So what it tells me is that I need to get out a little more early so that when the sun comes out, that it's by then. It takes about 2 hours to do a good. At least it took me about 2 hours to do like that 6.8 miles and so forth. So anyway, that's one of the purpose, my goals, that one of the areas in which I want to grow, to expand, to work for me. But see, I'm discovering about myself what it is that I like for me and what works for me. The same for you. We started talking about standards. I encourage you to set up standards for your life. And I guess I'm kind of veering into the area of health, because without your health, really, there's not a whole lot that you can do. When I say without your health, when I say, the point is, the best thing that you can do for yourself, for your body, for your being, is to be healthy. And we do have um the ability to take care of ourselves, of our physical body, by the way we treat it, by self care, by the way we nourish it, by the way we keep it moving, and things of that nature. So I encourage you to really focus on that. Give yourself a purpose. Even if you go to work every day, make time for yourself, because what we're doing here is you are creating a life of fruitfulness where you can flourish. That's the whole thing. It's joy and happiness, my friend. Why would you not want to do that for yourself? Some people, there's certain areas of people's of their lives that they're not friendly with. They don't pay attention to it. But it's important that you do. In this whole journey, it's the whole self. It's your whole life, your mind, your emotions, your body. It is your whole life. And if you don't do it, there's no one that's going to do it for you. So we're talking about purpose, and we're talking about um, being growth minded. And that means paying attention to your evolution and setting yourself up remember the things that no longer serve you. Sometimes we have a tendency to hang on to so many things and we don't know why. Why do you do this way? Why do you do this way? Well, that's the way I've always done it. Well, make changes. Make changes. Set standards for every area in your relationships. Set standards with everyone. Set standards. But see, you can't set standards unless you know who you are. And that's why you're going through this journey of self discovery. And those standards can change. It's interesting because I we generally don't think in terms of standards. Some of us do. Um, a standard of living, a standard for your life. There comes your value, your worth, your morals, you know your boundaries, and so forth. And I remember one time I asked my husband, and I said, because he had he had choices before he chose a wife, or before he chose to marry me. I don't like that anyway. Wife, before he chose to marry. And so I asked him, I said, why did you choose me? And I was really surprised because he said, because you had standards. Now, I was happy to hear that because that means I was set apart in his eyes. But then again, I'm thinking, wow, that must have been something that is natural for me. When I was younger, and my dad said to me, I think I've shared this story a million times. We were in the store, and I was looking at a dress, and it was very expensive. And my dad was over there, and he saw me looking at the dress, and came over, and I'm like, I said, "Wow, Dad, I love this dress." I said, "But look at the price." He said, "Don't look at the price." He said, "If you want it, get it." He says, "You deserve a good life. You deserve and when he said you deserve, those are the words that stayed with me. You deserve to have a good life. And that's always stayed with me. So I've always come into any situation. I deserve to have good relationships, good friendships, good everything, a good job, a nice place to live. That is just ingrained in my mind. And that has never changed. Doesn't mean that I haven't faced challenges. I've faced many challenges. Life happens to everyone. But I've always been so resilient, knowing that that's not where I belong. Where I belong is to have a good life. So that's just the fault. So what he saw was just me uh, in my element when he said, because you had standards. So we need to make sure that we have a standard for our health. What is it that we want to accomplish health wise? We have a standard for our social connections. There are some connections, my friend, that no longer serve you. There are certain connections, and it's okay. And what will happen is that you may have to distance yourself from them. It's not a matter of good or bad, right or wrong, true or false. It's over. I've had some connections that ended. It doesn't mean the person was bad or uh, wrong or no or did anything. No, not at all. It's just that season of our relationship ended, and it comes a time where you have to recognize those changes, and be okay with it. I've gained a lot of other connections and friendship and things of that nature. But that's not even the point. The point is, when a relationship comes to an end, you have to be okay with that. Why? Because it's part of your growth. It is part of your growth. It is part of your evolution. Not everyone is evolving. Not everyone wants to evolve. Some people are happy where they are. They're like, leave me alone. I'm fine. I can pay my bills or whatever. I go month to month, and they're fine with that. But if that's not you, then you may no longer have something in common. So you have to be okay with certain changes. You have to be okay with certain things. You have to be okay with certain relationships. You have to be okay with, you may be at a job that's stressing you out. And that's not good. You can either fix that, you can change your attitude toward it, or you can get another job. It's your choice. And you are able to do that. You can get another job if that's what you want to do. The thing is that you have to be alive on the inside. You have to be alive. You have to have a sense of aliveness, a sense of inner purpose, to be intentional in everything that you do. It all starts with the mindset. That to me is like the big thing. Once you change your mindset and you decide what you want to do, then you become relentless. That's a word that of course, I know what relentless mean, but that's a word that's become significant to me um, lately, because in my walking and so forth, the desire that I have to compete against myself. When I did the 2 miles, then 3 miles, then 4 miles, then 5 miles, then six. Now I'm going to go for seven, and I am relentless. But of course, in all of that, your body, who you are, your level of energy and stamina and all of that. So when I go out there, I have to use wisdom. If I reach a point like I did yesterday, I was pretty exhausted. I would have made it home, but I don't walk with water, so I was pretty thirsty. But then, as the universe would have it, I was walking home and I was just saying, "Oh gosh, I could I could really use a ride or whatever," or I just wish I was home or something like that. And that's when my husband called and he said, this heat and the humidity is very high. You need to, where are you?" And he came and picked me up. It's great to have a coach like that, right? Anyway, he picked me up and I came home, and oh gosh, that cold shower and that big old glass of uh cucumber lemon water, that just did it. And then after that I went to bed. Oh, I just kind of laid down for a while, because after walking close to 7 miles, and then the sun was just piercing, because I don't know what part of the world you are, but here is just very, very, very hot. So the point is, the standards that I have set myself up, it's all part of my growth. And for you, my friend, in whatever it is, all the areas of your life, whether it's work, whether it's social, whether it's your health, whether it's your finances, that is another thing as well. You want to make sure that you set yourself up where you can be independent. When you become independent, it's a sense of freedom. Why? Because you don't have to depend on someone financially. Sometimes we find ourselves in a situation, because I've been in a situation where my financial independence was challenged, and that's a precarious place to be, because at that time you become dependent. And but I know that I know for me, I was always that's an uncomfortable place. So you find a job, you do what you do to make sure that you get your own money, your own resources, to be able to do the things that you want. And the basic things is your self sustenance. You ought to be able to sustain yourself. So you want to make sure that you set yourself up. There has to be purpose. And do you know, when you have purpose, when you set up a standard, like if you say, I want to be financially independent. And that means not only being able to meet your financial responsibilities, but to be able to enjoy life, to be able to go to a nice restaurant and enjoy a meal, a glass of wine, with a friend. And sometimes you say, well, I'll pick up the tab. Being able to do that, it's such a great place to be, and you can do it. You are able to do it once you start setting up, having a purpose and setting up standards. This is what I want to do. This is what, we set up a standard for travel in our minds. We say, well, we want to take time out twice a year, travel, go here, go there, take a cruise here, and that is a standard that we have set up for ourselves. And every year we have met it, except for COVID. Well, even during COVID, we went to, it was all domestic travel. So we like went up to Niagara Falls and the Grand Canyon and all those things. Those were standard of living. We just set that up. That's what we wanted to do, and so that's one of our standards. So think in terms of setting standards for yourself. Set up standards for yourself and think in terms of growth, because you are evolving and you're coming back to that place where you're not afraid, you have no worries, and you know what I mean. Certain things we're concerned about, and we always have an element of fear. So I'm when I say fearless, there's a certain element of fear that we have because it's healthy, and it's what makes us think, react, flight or flight. It's that kind of situation. But you're not afraid to live. You're not afraid to go out. You're not afraid to engage, to indulge in life. You're not afraid. You build confidence and assertiveness. You're going back to that place where you're not shy, you're not afraid, you don't worry about things. Why? Because once you know who you are, then you know that whatever comes your way, you in your mind, it's settled that you know how to handle things. You know how to make decisions. You're confident to make decisions, even if it's the wrong decision. Sometimes I would make a decision and it's not the perfect decision to solve the situation, but then there are other options. There are options. There are options. And you ought to know that there are options. So, my friend, the whole thing, you want your life to be joy filled and impactful. What do I mean? What do I mean by impactful? You want to make an impact. You want to encourage and you want to um, impact other people's lives, because when you're good with you, you can affect in a positive way the lives of others. When you're okay with who you are, when you're good with you, when you're good with yourself, you don't have to compete. You don't have to be jealous. You don't have to be envious. It doesn't mean that your energy flows with everyone. That may not be the case, and that is okay. You don't have to get along with everyone. That's okay. That is okay. Doesn't mean you don't like them or you don't or you're jealous of them or envy. No, none of that. Sometimes your enemy just don't. I met this lady, this woman, not too long ago, and we were having a cup of coffee. Well, not coffee. We were at Starbucks. We were having coffee. We met there, said, let's have a cup of coffee. That's just, the way you plan your meetings and so forth. And the energy was so intense between us. There was no effort in our communication. We just laugh, and the things that we shared, we had so much we in common, think alike and so forth. And it was so much fun. I poured into her and she poured into me. We both had impact. in each other's lives. And then we decided we were going to meet again and do things, and I'm going to go to, it's just so. And then you have some people that you simply don't connect with in that manner, and that is okay. You don't have to be friends with everyone, and you have to understand that not everyone is going to like you. And I don't think in terms of that, who likes me and who doesn't like me. That's the thing is that the main thing is that you like who you are. You like yourself. That's what's important, is that you like who you are. Now, that is a life that flourishes. Now, if you're not flourishing, a life uh, of just existing, that is just a sad place to be. Because you know what? You become stagnant. You get up, there's no purpose, there's no motivation. You just go through the day doing whatever it is that you do. You clean up, you clean the house, uh wash clothes, maybe, um do whatever. There's no purpose, there's no drive, there's no intention, there's no intentionality, there's no purpose. There's no reason. There's no why. Why am I alive today? It becomes stagnant. And that's why, when I revisit a lot of the traditional values that's been imposed upon us, and I'm speaking for myself, when you think of those values that's been imposed upon you, you do this way, you do things that way, and you're just robotic. You become like a robot. Why? Because you do things according to, this is the way it's done, this is the way we do it, and that's it. There's no creativity, there's no curiosity, the desire to explore, the desire to learn things. So you become stagnant. I know for me, we in our lives, and I've shared this many times, one of the areas where we became stagnant was when we were going to church. Religion that became so stagnating to us that my husband said, "That's it. I'm done with this." And it didn't just happen that way, but we were done, and so now we are, living a life that's enriched with human, with our humanity and people and social things, and just, you know the collective human being, and sharing love and exchange and kindness, and really living, enjoying life. Because one thing about life, even though we live with the purpose of pleasure, but pleasure comes when you can impact others as well, when you can give to others of your gift, your talent, your expertise, your ability. When you can give, whether it's of your resources, your time, or whatever it is, your skills, when you can give, when you can make an impact in someone else's life, that is true living, and not living by rules and regulations and dogma and doctrine and none of that. You're not living because that's all performative. That's all performative. But when you can just be and enjoy life, and let's do this and let's do that, and be open, and if somebody may have a whole different frame of mind, a whole different type of opinion, different ideology, different viewpoint, but guess what? The basic element. When I was talking to my friend the other day, I said, as humans, we all want the same thing. We want to be happy. We want to be able to provide for our families, and we want to be able to live in peace. Those are the fundamental, in my mind, those are the fundamental three things that every human being desire. Everything else will fit into that. We want to be happy. Everybody wants to be happy. We want to be able to provide for ourselves and our families. And we want to be able to live in peace. The three fundamental things that humans, what we all desire. So it doesn't matter the different point of view, the different ideology, the different perspective, because we all see things differently. And some of it is, socio-cultural, socio-economic. It all depends on which part of the world you were, you grew up in, and that makes us different. But the whole thing about it is that the diversity is what makes us so rich. Why? Because we learn about each other. And how? Because we come together cohesively and we engage with each other. And if you're not doing that, then or being purposeful in life to do that, then you may be stagnant, just going through the same routine over and over and over. The same routine, the same things, doing the same things, going the same places, nothing new. Everything is the same and so forth. And you're not living a rich life. Some of you even think, as a matter of fact, some of you even think that after you reach a certain season in life, I don't generally say age simply because, again, there's biological age and there's chronological age. That's just my thing. But some of you think that once you reach certain season in life, that it's over. So you just get up, you have breakfast, you read the newspaper. Well, not newspaper anymore, but you get on social media and you repeat. You just reset, repeat every day. My friend, that is not living. That is existing. And because you're watching my show, and this has to do with your journey of self discovery. Your journey of self discovery. Now, I'm not saying that we don't take time out sometimes to rest. Of course, that's all part of our self care. But we've got to kick it up a notch. We have to kick up our standard of living the things we want, how we're going to go about discovering who we are, and at the same time, have the courage to implement the changes as you see they evolve around you. The changes, whether it be social, financial, I've had, I'm one of those Amazon delivery, Nordstrom delivery, they're always at my door, and I enjoy that. And just today I said to my husband before, he was checking outside the mail, and I said, "Do I have anything from Amazon?" He said, "No. Did you order something?" And I said, "No, I'm just taking a break from that." And for some reason I am, and this is just happening to me. This is not like, I'm not boycotting anyone. I'm not like, I did that a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago. There was like a week of boycott from Amazon, whatever. But I'm one of those that I like my packages, from Nordstrom and Amazon. And then I thought, you know what? Now, and I don't know where that is coming from. I am like, because I have the app. I have the Amazon app and I have the Nordstrom app. And when I go and I look at stuff, and now I ask myself, do you really need that, Cynthia? I am shocking myself. I am surprising myself because most of the time when we buy something, it's not that we need it, it's just that we want it. We like it, we buy it. So now I am asking myself, do you really need that? Because sometimes we buy something and we use it like a few times and that's it. And we just get rid of it. and so forth. So now, and it's part, I guess it's part of my evolution because I like those packages showing up at my door. You know what I'm talking about. You do the same thing. I like those packages showing up. Of course I do. I do. But something is changing. Something is changing, and I am yielding. I am surrendering that. And it's not painful. It just occurred to me because when my husband came in today, he didn't have anything in his like a package. And it occurred to me, it's like, wait a minute, I haven't ordered from Amazon in a long time. Well, a long time. That could be like a couple weeks. I would have something showing up almost every day. Stuff, little stuff, anything. And now I ask myself, do you really need it? And then of course, when you do that, what's happening? It start affecting your finances in a positive way. Why? Because you're not using that money to buy something that you don't need. So your finances, your miscellaneous account or whatever you call yours, travel and entertainment, whatever, um, that's growing. Why? Because you're not using that money to just buy the things that you thought you needed. That's part of my evolution. And I'm discovering that. I'm like, wait a minute, but that's okay. So you see, I am growing in that area. And I'm becoming I don't know if the word is discipline because if I see something that I like, I'm gonna buy it anyway. But now I'm like taking a step back. Do you really need it? My friend, let's set some standards. In this whole journey, we're going to set standards for ourselves in every area of our lives. We're going to set standards starting with our health. I talk a lot about that, and I don't know. I guess I'm just motivated to talk about that a lot simply because um, it's important for you to understand that you can get to a place where you are well and healthy and able to do the things that you want. And I don't know what your goal might be, but always go for total well-being. That's my. It's not even my goal because it's a process. Being well, doing the things to stay well is a process. You don't just get there and stop. It's a process. The way you nourish yourself, the way you move your body, the way you program your mind, all of that, the way you respond to things having to do with your emotions, your mind, your body, all of that creates your an overall well-being, state of wellness. So I want to encourage you to raise the standards, whatever it is. And if you are bound at home with limitations, do whatever you can to get it stepping, to get moving, to get stepping, to get moving. And do whatever you can because that's important for you. And then you start setting standards in your for your life. And for those of you that are uh shared about wanting to change your life and have a companion and things of that nature, then it's important that you set up some standards for yourself. How are you going to meet that person? How would you know it's the right person? And what will you do? There was this girl and she was asking on social media, and she met this guy and she was so happy to she just know that there's a connection, and she online over social media. And but they live in like across the ocean, across the world. And he's in Europe, she's in the US, and so forth. And anyway, And she was just so excited to meet that person. They spent a lot of time on Zoom, online, and on the phone and talking. And she, in her mind, she's in love with this person. Well, um, she plans to go see the person, to go meet the person, the guy in person. And she was excited about it. But at the same time, she had a little bit of hesitation, and she wanted the opinion of the group. She wanted to know, what do you think? Should I go? Should I not go? And I am not. I'm not going to tell you not to do it, because if you're an adult, you make your own decisions, and you whatever consequences, it could be good, could be bad. But I would say, if it were me, I'm not going to go on a plane, go across the ocean to meet anyone. That's just not my mo. That's just not the way I would do it at all. I don't love anybody that much. At least somebody that I don't know, to get on a plane and go all that. I mean, that to me right there is a standard. That's her standard. Uh Again, it's not good or bad, right or wrong. That is her standard. She already, and it's interesting because she had already bought her ticket. She bought her ticket, made reservations and all of that. And I don't get all worked up. I just said, well, if it were me, that's just not the way I operate. If I meet someone and if they're interested in me to begin with, that interested in me, then they're going to have to make the effort to come see me. You probably think the same way as well. I don't know. That's just, but that was her standard. She just thought that because she had the flexibility, she had the money, she had it, that she could just get on a plane and go over there and meet the guy. And for the first time on social media, I know what you're thinking. Don't say a word, because, and it's not somebody that I know personally, so it doesn't really affect me. I'm just hoping that she's safe, and whether things work out in her favor or not, it's irrelevant to me. I'm just hoping that she's safe and not disappointed, because to put that kind of money in, and then, but not only that, when you do that, when making that kind of decision, it sends a message to the person, to the guy. How guys, how men think. You're gonna. eh, Anyway, I don't want to spend time there. My friend, it's important that you set up standards during this journey. You have got to have standards in every area. You've got to have standards, and the whole objective is for your life to flourish. It's for your life to be flourishing in every area of your life, emotionally, mentally, physically, psychologically, financially. That is your goal. That is your goal. You want to reach a standard to where you are financially independent, and you can get there. You see, I just shared this whole thing about me kind of slowing down on purchases that I don't need, and then in the meantime, that money out of that whatever miscellaneous account is growing, because I'm not taking money out of that to put, to pay for stuff that I don't actually need. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm going to deprive myself, because if I find that I need or desire something, yeah, I'm gonna get it. But now that I'm so mindful, and my fulfillment, that's another thing. My fulfillment, I'm seeing that I'm deriving fulfillment from other sources. And that's becoming so pleasant, because I guess because I'm being intentional and I'm paying attention. to the activities and my interconnectedness with people, with others, and the impact that I'm making on people's lives, and how I'm able to help and affect the lives of others. And spending time with my husband, we enjoy each other's company, and we, doing fun stuff. It's the fulfillment that I'm getting. It's at a deeper level. Like children, like kids, it doesn't take a lot to make them happy. You give them a cookie, or you take them to the park, or whatever, they're happy. And whether you call it, I'm going back to simplicity, maybe that's it, and that's okay. That's okay with me. I am okay with that. So, my friend, I'm going to leave you with that. Add that layer to your journey where you're setting standards for yourself, and then you pay attention to your evolution. How are you changing from this way to this way, from the identity that's been imposed upon you versus the identity that you're discovering, your true authentic self? Pay attention to your emotions. How does it make you feel? What thoughts do you have? How are you reprogramming your thought process? How are you reprogramming that? How are you seeing yourself being recreated? You're recreating yourself. You are reinventing yourself. Not by that definition, but by virtue of simply discovering your true authentic self. It's a rebirth. It is a recreation. It is bringing you back to who, or not back, or bringing you to discover who you really are. The other day, one of my friends said something about, she said, we are not really set free, we are born free. And I kind of like that, because I always say, when you know the truth, that's the truth is what sets you free. But and it does, because when you come into that place of truth, then you are, I guess, you discover that you are already free. But that brings to your awareness the freedom that you can flow in. You don't have to be concerned about what people say, what people do, or you don't have to be concerned about any of that. You will walk in the fullness of who you are, your true authentic self, with new standards to live by in every area of your life: physically, emotionally, mentally, financially, psychology, and in every area of your life. I'm going to leave you with that. And I hope, this, again, I am fascinated by this journey, and I trust that you are as well, doing the things that really wakes you up. And anyway, we are going to continue next week. We have a date every Thursday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here. And if you cannot meet me at that time, you see these icons over here: YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. You can pick up the feed 24/7. If you can't meet me Thursday, 2 p.m. Yeah, I don't expect everyone to be here on Thursday, 2 p.m. Central Time, because some of you are working. But if you can, great. If not, you can pick up the feed right here. Send me a note. Jot it down. info@ thecynthialinoxshow.com, and share with me the things that you're going through, whether it's challenges or triumph or happy situations, whatever it is. Share it with me so that I can know where you're at in your journey. In the meantime, amigos, tomorrow's Friday. Have a fantastic weekend. Do whatever it is that brings you pleasure, but enjoy it. Make sure you enjoy it. In the meantime, I'm going to say ta-ta, au revoir, amigos. Ciao. Hasta la próxima semana. See you then.